So here we have our potato, onion, and garlic mixture. What I'm going to do here is I just want to check to see how we're doing underneath this. I don't want to mix this up too much. I do want this to try to be as whole as it can be. So I'm just patting this down to kind of really like push the pressure on it. I can tell it it's starting to come together. It's starting to be one. So I'm just going to gently loosen this and try to get underneath it. Oh, and we're looking really good here. So I'm going to make sure I get the whole thing. I'm going to move it around. Where it wants to go. There it is. We got a little bit messy there. Not too bad though. We need an assistance with a bigger spatula. So obviously this is kind of one of those things where sometimes it's trial and error. But we didn't get too worried about it, or I didn't get too worried about it. I went in with another spatula and I was able to kind of get what I was looking for here. So great crust on this, good color. Here I'm going to add these herbs on top. And I'm really going to be generous here. I'm not much of a skimper on the herbs. I think the flavor is great. I'm also going to come in, because we haven't seasoned this yet, so I'm going to come in with some crushed black pepper. Same thing, nice and generous. The potatoes really are going to ask for a lot of that flavor. I'm also going to come in with some salt here. Sprinkle the salt right over the top. And then I'm a big fan of spice. So I have a little bit of cayenne pepper here. So I'm just going to sprinkle this cayenne right over the top. This is going to continue to cook all the way through. It's going to even cook the top a little bit. And it's going to cook these herbs. And we're going to give this a little bit more time to really do its magic. It takes about roughly like 10 minutes from the time it goes in the pan to the time it comes out to really get what you're looking for in terms of cooked all the way through, the texture, just the whole package. So while that's cooking, we're going to scramble our eggs, and we're going to talk about how to cook scrambled eggs and what that's going to look like from start to finish. So while we have our hash continuing to cook, we recently just flipped it. So I'm going to scramble eggs. I'm going to make 2 egg scramble. Like I talked before in one of my previous videos about cracking an egg, I like to crack it on the table instead of right onto the rim. So I'll crack it onto the table, put my 2 fingers right in, and just separate. And I'm going to do that with the other egg. And then this is going to go into the trash. Fork, I'll break my egg yolk here and just whisk my eggs. And I'm just doing this until I essentially break up and mix together the egg whites and the egg yolks like I did. So here we are back at the stove. I have my home fries still cooking on the other side. I lightly sprayed our pan here, and I'm going to add my eggs to this. Right now the heat is right around low to low medium heat. And I have a rubber spatula which is going to help me in this process. This is a non-stick pan, so I don't have to worry. I don't have to add too much oil or spray butter or fat or anything like that to our pan. That's going to help kind of just keep it as healthy as possible without adding too much fat. And what I'm doing here, and the reason why I have this on low to low medium heat, is because if you have it too high on the heat, you're going to rapidly cook out your water from your eggs. So essentially your egg whites is made up of mostly water, and your egg yolks are pretty much all like the fat that's in the egg. And you don't want to cook out that egg white quickly, so that's why my heat here is also on the lower end of things. It allows this to properly cook and stay nice and rich without losing that egg or that water content. Also, this is going to prevent us from getting too much browning on our eggs. You want to keep your eggs nice and clear in terms of no color. Too much color on there is definitely going to make them brown, and it's essentially a sign that you're burning your eggs. So we don't want to do that. And we want to make sure we scrape all this off the sides here. So as quickly as that was, my eggs are now done, just like that. I'm just going to touch up the sides here and get these right out of our pan. If you're somebody who likes to add cheese in your scrambled eggs, this is a perfect way to do it. Do it now, have your heat off, and fold it in quickly. Alright, so here we are. Quick little last minute check. You can see it's starting to get there in terms of cookedness. Looks like it's pretty much all the way cooked. Coloring is starting to happen. Not as pronounced as the top side, which is fine. This is the initial sear. This is going to be the top of it, so it's still going to look beautiful once we cut it. And for this, you can cut straight across. You can cut it into little, like, pizza slices. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this as if it's a nice slice of pizza. I'm going to turn up the heat here. I'm going to take my scrambled eggs with my crushed black pepper on it. I'm going to come right under and slide right on top. This will continue to cook just because the cast iron pan holds heat really well and gets nice and hot. So it's going to continue to cook, as you can tell from the sizzling right there, which is fine. The heat's off. It's going to help slowly get a nice sear on the bottom of that pan, and it's going to be perfect. So here's my scrambled eggs, my home fries that I cooked. So just a little recap with our home fries that we have here. What I did was I shredded our potatoes into a bowl, roughly 2 smaller potatoes, 1 potato or a large potato for a person. I then heated up my cast iron pan with a little bit of oil. I like a cast iron pan because it gives a nice sear. If you don't have a cast iron pan, that's completely fine. You can still get the same result. Your sear might vary because your heat distribution, or how evenly your heat is spread throughout your entire pan, might change. So I medium to low heat on the cast iron pan, a little bit of oil, and then I let that warm up just enough, probably like a minute, 2 minutes. Added in my potatoes, pushed them down, spread them out nice and evenly. I came back to my cutting board. I chopped up or diced my onions, my garlic. I went back to the stove. I sprinkled that over the top layer of it, still not flipping over yet. I then came back to my cutting board. I chopped up my herbs, which was my cilantro, my parsley, my thyme, my rosemary, and I removed the unwanted stems, and I put that in a bowl. I came back to the stove. I just went right underneath to check to see the color on the bottom of my potatoes that were obviously connected to the cast iron, and I checked it. It was a great color. So then we proceeded to try to flip. I went in with one spatula, which just wasn't working out well, and then came in with a slightly bigger spatula and was able to flip that nicely without breaking up my hash. I then took the herbs and sprinkled over the top of that. I set that off to the side, kept it on the flame about medium-low heat, and then I got my non-stick pan for my eggs, and I started to warm that up. While that was warming up, I cracked 2 eggs right off the table, put them in a bowl, and quickly whisked those together. I went back to the stove, sprayed my pan, and then added in my eggs into my slightly warm pan already. And with a rubber spatula, I just mixed those up, keeping the flame nice and low so I don't remove too much of that moisture content from my eggs. So because nobody really wants dry eggs, and I let that do its thing, and quickly took that off the heat when I thought it was appropriate. Put that into another pan. Into my plate, and then went and checked on my pan that has my hash in it. I checked it once. I thought it needed a little bit more oil. I gave it the oil that was needed and let it cook for a little bit longer. I think the whole process for the hash browns is roughly about 10 minutes by the time you hit your potatoes in there, from the time you flip it over to giving it more oil if needed, or more fat if needed. If you wanted to add butter, you could. And I was using olive oil. And then I checked it again, and I thought it was at the perfect stage that I thought it was at. Good color on the bottom, great color on the top from the first initial sear, and I cut it appropriately how I wanted it. So I hope you enjoyed. It's a simple thing to make hash, and I think it's an easy thing to do. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I hope you enjoyed everything, and thank you very much.